think we should start, don't you?
Madeline, what is the tasting order?
It's right here if you look in the chat room, but I will repeat it. The first one is the Copertino, which is the Italian red. The second one is the Ramon Bilbao, which is the Gran Reserva Rioja, the Spanish red. And the third one is the the German Spätlese, which, no, we haven't lost our mind. It's got a little sweetness, so it won't show off the reds well if we taste it first.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Paula, it's nice to see you. How are you doing? Great. Okay, I'm going to have a little sip of this and raise a glass to everyone's good health, and we'll start officially. Hi, everybody. I'm going to keep an eye in the waiting room. There doesn't seem to be anybody there now. Welcome to a very interesting tasting that is the brainchild of my friend and colleague, Travis Reeves, who is the coordinator for all of our, if you've forgotten to mute, go ahead and mute, just so there's no background noise. Travis is doing some important work for us because he's directing all of our e-commerce, which means, online orders. He speaks tech and computers much more fluently than I do, so that's useful. But more importantly to me, he loves wine. And Travis, you want to give everyone just a thumbnail sketch of your background before you joined Plum?
Sure. Well, from 18 until probably about 35 or so, I worked in restaurants. So mostly in Ann Arbor. That's my primary background. I ran a few beverage programs there. Some of the Ann Arbor people here might know some of them, like Eve the Restaurant, Pacific Rim was one of the long-standing ones. I did Vellum as well. Those are some of the main highlights, if you will. And I worked retail for the first time when I moved out to Royal Oak at Westbourne Market in Berkeley, right off of Woodward there. And that's where I kind of cut my teeth on retail and got experience there. And then when it was time to, dig deeper into this and broaden my horizons, Plum Market was definitely on my radar as a place that you need to be involved in if you want to be in the wine retail game. And I already knew a couple of people that had been, and loved the transition. I started off down in Detroit at Ally, and that store is temporarily closed with that whole financial district working from home. And this position kind of developed, and with the boom on e-commerce and actually getting into this tech side of things too. Actually, even though I haven't been able to get on most of these events, I put up a lot of the listings and such. So
it's kind of essential to us doing this.
So when anything breaks down, you're trying to buy the wines online. That's usually my fault. So sorry about that.
No, we're not doing fault, and it's community, community ball dropping and community, cheers also. But we will remember to check the app and make sure that you can see events as clearly as you do online. So Travis and I started working together down at Ally, doing live events, and as everyone knows, in March, we went from live to, I would say Memorex, but this is very real. It's just different. I hope everyone's staying strong and healthy and cheerful in times that continue to be extraordinary. So I'm very, very glad that, well, hopefully you like these tastings as much as we do, because I find them terrific, and it gives me a lovely raison d'etre. Somebody mentioned that, number one, the Copertino was out of stock. We really had a little bit of internal drama with that wine, and we ended up selling some before we should have. So in any event, bottom line is we do have more coming in, like momentarily. So what we'll do when I send the recap after the tasting, just let me know if you're interested in some, and Travis and I will make sure that we let you know. You don't have to commit to it, just tell us so we can get back to you. Per usual, there's no wine police, so start sipping whatever you want to, but I thought what we would do right out of the gate, is to demonstrate how to decant. Because, most of the time when I go to restaurants, the server, even sommelier managers it's not that they're doing it wrong, it's just I don't think they understand the concept of what they're doing. So what we're going to do is decant a wine that does actually 3 and 4 things. It removes clear wine from the sediment, which is what? Pigment, coloring matter, and tannin dropping off with time. Some wines have wispier sediment like Pinot Noir, and some wines have very tarry looking sediment like Cabernet Sauvignon. It gets the wine out of the bottle, which effectively airs it a lot, more enthusiastically than just taking the cork out. If it's coming from a cold cellar, it raises the temperature a few degrees, which makes a big difference, especially if it's tannic concentrated red, because 55 to 60 may be delightful for Pinot Noir, but it can lock up the flavor and make a Brunello or a Cabernet taste more tannic. And finally, it's a cool thing to do. You get to use your neat decanters, right? So everybody with us, can you see, Travis? What you do when you're going to open a bottle is, let's say this is the bottle and it's been sitting in your cellar with the label facing up. And the reason for that is the sediment is collecting here on the bottom. So that when you stand it up gently, it's not like nitroglycerin, you don't have to be paranoid about it, but you're not going to whoops like that. You're not going to whip it out of the bin and like mix up the sediment, but you're going to, pull it up gently, and then the sediment starts trudging down the side, so that when you go ahead to decant, you're going to put your hand over the label in the same position that it was in the bin. So when you're pouring, the clear wine is effectively pouring over the sediment into the decanter. Are you with me? Now, once you start pouring, you're not going to pull back up. That will, defeat the purpose. And you pour, Travis is going to demonstrate, at a nice, steady, medium, slow pace. Not a dribble, but nor is it a rushing river. And when you're not going to really see anything until you get to the last quarter. And you're going to see where Travis positions the flashlight on his phone. You can use a regular flashlight. I'm old-fashioned. I like candles because even though they warble a little bit, the light is not as compelling. But you're looking right where the shoulder joins the neck. So with me, any questions, just unmute yourself and holler, or type it in the chat room. So
shall we proceed?
We're proceeding. Go for it, Travis.
All right. So I have my flashlight on my phone here, and I'm going to put it through the neck. A nice steady pour. Try not to glug it too much because I'm trying to separate any sediment.
A little glug is okay, so you don't have to worry about it. And let me know at about what time you start seeing through the wine. Because you're about, what, 2/3, 3/4 through the bottle right now?
Yep, about a quarter left.
Yeah, anything?
Yep, trying to get something right now.
Okay, so was it wispy? Was it like ash-like, or was it tarry?
I have about an ounce left, and there were solid pieces.
So is it like a thumb, about a thumbful, in terms of?
Yeah, I'd say so.
So what you're going to do when you see sediment and you see that ashy, kind of cigarette ashy sediment, you don't jerk back, just stop. And I kind of let that keep going until I see the black tarry sediment, and then I'll stop pouring. And if you want the fun of seeing what sediment does to the flavor or the fragrance, pour it in a separate glass, look at it with the flashlight, see how chunky it is, right? And then taste it. Sometimes if it's a light sediment, like with Pinot, it won't really alter the flavor or fragrance much. But sometimes if it's, thick, dark sediment, it'll really add to the bitterness and mask the fruit of the wine. If you get chunks that look like almost colored salt, that's tartrates, tartaric acid that comes, that is suspended. It comes out of suspension when the wine goes through something called cold stabilization, or when the temperature of the wine drops if it hasn't been precipitated out before it's bottled. The punchline is there's nothing wrong with even tasting tartrates. They're a little crunchy, they're not going to harm you. And sometimes you see it in the neck of the bottle. So that's it. It's not uncommon for
Madeline,
those of,
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Why do winemakers sometimes choose to do that cold filtration before bottling versus not doing it?
That's a great question. Some winemakers feel, you know, when in doubt, don't touch the stuff. And other winemakers feel, you know, I want my wine to be nice and clean. I don't want it to drop titrates, and I don't think cold stabilization is going to muck with it in terms of quality. So it's a personal decision. I mean, some winemakers will actually rack, meaning gently pump white wine off its lees, and you will actually see lees, dead yeast cells floating in the bottle. I remember great white Burgundies back in my London chap house days would often look murky, you know, but from great producers like Le Roi. So, you know, we're paying $100 a bottle even in those days for wine that wasn't clear, but that's a decision that they made. So that's, you know, any other questions, just think about it and you can ask him now or later, but are we good to move forward? Oh, it dropped a little bit of sediment, but not heavy sediment?
Correct.
And was that the Copertino, correct?
Yep.
Because you checked the Rioja earlier and you told me that it hadn't dropped any sediment, which I said, that's okay.
Correct. Yeah. On Tuesday, I went ahead and bought a bottle and, you know, just for experimental purposes, of course, had to get to the bottom of it, and yeah, there was no sediment.
Alrighty, so why are we doing this? Travis, tell us what fueled you to come up with this theme. Why do you find this theme exciting?
Well, it's personal, and then also it's a common theme that comes up, I feel like, in the course of being in the department with guests coming in and asking about things. I think a lot of times we associate an aged wine with a higher price tag, or that we have to do the work of cellaring it. You know, when should we drink it? All these kind of things, they come up often. And sometimes people are trying to build a cellar and they need to know what goes in there. And I actually personally use a website called Cellar Tracker to kind of track the life, if you will, the evolution of a wine, because it goes through peaks and valleys. And if I only have a couple, I want to make sure I hit it at a peak. If I have enough of a wine, I'll check it at different stages, just because it's a fun thing to do. You know, to get something that this first one here, that's $12.99, that already has 10 years on it, and is drinking great, I think that's a really fun thing, and it's a great way to experience that without you know, putting in that effort or breaking the you know,
Breaking the
getting
bank.
too deep in the wallet. Yeah.
No, and actually, to that point, I mean, here's the takeaway for me, and it's a really important one. Wines with bottle age that have been sitting in the bottle for a significant amount of time are not necessarily going to be better. They're going to be different. And the short version of this is when they're young, and this goes for white and red, though it tends to be more dramatic in reds, though we're going to taste a mature white tonight. Let's say we're talking about a red wine, and you can start playing with either Rioja or the Copertino if you have them on hand. When the wine is young, the fruit, fragrances, and flavors, be it red or red berries, blackberries, blueberries, floral aspects, herbs are going to be fresh. So you get almost an illusion of sweetness. The oak can be a little bit dominant on young wines. It hasn't integrated. If it's a tannic red like Cabernet Sauvignon, the tannins will be sometimes significantly drying. As the wine sits in the bottle, changes happen that slowly produce what we call secondary or even tertiary aromatics. It goes from being fruity to, I love this word, vinous, which actually means winey as opposed to fruity. So what you'll get, it's V-I-N-O-U-S. What you'll get are wines, let's say the same red wine will start picking up dried cherries instead of, you know, primal Bing fresh cherries. Maybe even tasting a little and smelling a little, and you'll notice I associate fragrance with flavor. Either taste or smell a little jammy or even cooked sometimes. That bright floral character will turn more into a potpourri. The oak won't sit on the wine as much. It'll integrate. And the tannins can
In general,
soften.
with a lot of things you're saying, though, is a pattern of being fresh to more of a dried quality.
Exactly. And now, and the really important part of all of this, the heart of it is, it's not better, it's different. And I'm always telling people, you are going to decide whether you like secondary characteristics, if you like vinosity in wine or you don't. Frankly, with the decades I spent in restaurants and all the young wine that I served, I have a very, very soft spot in my heart and probably a preference for younger wines, because I love that primary fruit. I love that delish aspect to it. If an older wine's coming from a good provenance, good cellar conditions, including my current ones, then the complexity has a chance of being healthy. And otherwise, if it's spent time in heated warehouse, it's going to taste cooked. So all that age isn't going to do it a favor. Let's look at this first wine, the Copertino. And if you have a white surface, don't cheat yourself out of looking. So I'm looking at it against the white paper. And all of a sudden, if you look from the center, which is a true ruby, to the very rim, you've got maybe 4 bands of different colors, starting from true ruby in the middle. Anybody have the wine? You raise your hand if you've got it. It's really neat to look at this. You've got true ruby red in the center, and then it starts not just lightening, but picking up a little bit of yellow until it gets to the very rim where it actually has a little bit of orange if you're in good direct sunlight, not a dark room. And that is not good or bad, it just is. It's an indication of bottle age. Now, I will tell you there are a couple of grape varieties, Sangiovese and Nebbiolo, that are tricky little sons of guns. And will start looking like that when they're young, but we're not tasting any of them tonight, so we don't have to worry about it. Now, when you smell it, I'm curious if anyone else is going to chime in. I smelled this and tasted it when I got on with Travis. And the first thing I smell is actually not fruit. It's more of a leathery smell. It smells a little bit like cedar. And you can chime in here whenever you want. It's red and dark fruit that are quite ripe, maybe a little bit jammy. It smells really intriguing.
I think the leather's spot on.
Yeah. Is the leather too dominant for you, Travis, or do you like it?
Oh, I like that. Mm. It's got that old world grit to it,
Mm-hmm. And on the palate, it's
I don't shy away from barnyard.
Well, you're bringing up this whole issue of barnyard. There's several characters that are described as either adjectives that are describing a characteristic called Brett or Brettanomyces that sometimes can be obnoxious and sometimes can simply add complexity. So when you get leather or even a little bit of a horsey smell, if it doesn't command your attention, it adds complexity. If you don't like even a trace element of it, it might annoy you. But no, from me, in this particular case, it's fine. It's just an element in the wine.
And I think some of that is because on the palate, it's prevalent.
Is it less prevalent on the palate or more?
I think so. On the finish a little bit, but I get more of the fruit on the palate and that bright acidity too.
Well, what's interesting me too is this wine smells deep and complex, and on the palate, it's actually a little refreshing. I can feel alcohol, but my mouth is watering, and it's not particularly drying. If you rub your tongue against the roof of your mouth, there is tannin, which is derived from the skins and the barrels. But in this particular case, this is seen no oak. While we're talking about this, I want to show you a couple of slides about this particular wine. Where did you find this, Travis?
That's a good question.
So you've been supporting this wine for a long time, right?
Yeah, easily 4 years or more.
You introduced me to this, and this is the name.
I don't know how I came about it.
You introduced us to it, and we've done well with it. So this is Cantina Sociale Cooperativa, means a cooperative winery, and Copertino is actually a place name in Italy's heel of the boot, and Reserva designates extended aging. So here we are. Can you see where in Italy's heel. We're in the very heel of the boot. And here's Copertino. Can you see it? It's very cool because you have two seas on either side, which even though you're in southern Italy, is going to do what? Moderate the climate by, especially, you know, during the day, you've got breezes, and at night, the temperature is going to drop lower than it would if it were inland, more what we call continental. I think that's a really cool picture. And this, I didn't read the article about the castle. This is
Which helps with the acidity.
Which helps with the acidity. This is the co-op's actual home, correct?
Yeah, it's apparently the only vineyard that is in a castle.
Which is very cool. And this is a grape variety called Negro Amaro, which is attractively translates to black and bitter. Not unlike some of you who've had Xinomavro from northern Greece. Xino means sour and Mavro means black. But Negro Amaro is really the grape down here, though it's joined by Malvasia Nera and Nero d'Avola. Don't you love rolling your R's? This is the old Cantina with their original members that all dressed in their Sunday best. I love this picture because it's right next to the train. And then this is a this is a modern picture where they members have their kids, you know, tromping on grapes and playing in their band. And this is an example of a huge old neutral barrel, though the stat sheets we've got say that this wine has seen no oak, correct?
Yes, that's correct. They make two wines though. The other one, I believe, is the one that sees the oak.
Mm-hmm. I'm drinking it, so I must find it delicious. Oddly, when I hold this on my palate, I get that fresh red berry fruit. Is anyone else drinking it and want to opine, jump in with a comment on the Copertino? None of our peeps? Anyone who's had it? It's just you and me, Travis. Maybe we ran out sooner than we thought, but we are going to get...
Madeline,
yes.
We've had it and are really enjoying it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wonderful. Is it too earthy for you, or do you like the earthiness?
No, not at all. The fruit seems to be coming out a little bit, and we're enjoying it.
You know, this is, again, a wine with significant bottle age that's under $15 a bottle, and it has complexity, interest factor, and it's Italian. Yay. So,
Madeline, I also have it. And when I first smelled it, it just felt so strong until I didn't think I would like it, but I do.
You've gotten used to it. Are you eating anything, Elaine?
Am I getting?
Are you eating anything just now?
I am. I'm eating some vegetables and a dip.
Cool. What kind of dip, may I ask? I mean, I'm just wondering.
It has I made it. It has like blue cheese and
oh, yum. Okay.
Sour cream, and I mean it's a bad barefoot Contessa recipe.
Oh well, let's hear it for Ina, right? God bless her. She's the one who makes the Mongo Cosmopolitans too. Right?
Yes,
she's terrific. Well, the reason I ask is because whenever you're eating anything, especially if it's got fat or protein, it will make the wine taste softer. If it's got a tartness or an acidity, it can also make the wine taste less tart. So I think we should march on to the Rioja. And if you've got it, just start playing with it. And I think what I'm going to do is go back to the screen, and maybe as you're playing with it, we will show you a little information. Oops, let me get rid of this slideshow from the beginning. Okay, one of these years I'll get this right. Here we go. So this is the growing region in northern Spain. This is the dominant, not 100% grape variety, Tempranillo, which surprised me because I'm used to in France, if I see the grape variety on the front, it's 100%. So Travis and I were talking about that. Gran Reserva refers to aging requirements that, if memory serves, are 2 years in the bottle and 2 years in the cask before they, is that right?
I think it's 18 months in cask as the minimum.
you can see that, you know, you memorize and forget things with regularity, but there are minimums that often the producers will exceed. And here's Rioja. So this is north, scooching eastern Spain. These are the Pyrenees that separate Spain from France. You've got Galicia, AKA Galicia over here, and this is Bilbao. And this is a mountain range called the Sierra Cantabria that will impact whether the Atlantic influences this area or not. So we're always looking at what? Altitude, proximity to bodies of water, mountain ranges, whether it's coastal, whether it's inland, because this is going to affect how the grapes grow. And this is Rioja, and you've got three major regions: Alavesa, which is the coolest and fresh, fresher, higher acidity; Rioja Alta, where Bilbao is situated, and these are their vineyards and their vineyard areas, a little bit warmer, and a lot of top wineries are located here. And Rioja Baja, that's warmer still, where Garnacha reigns supreme. This is what Travis has as his backdrop.
It's just so cool looking. I had to do it.
No, it's wonderful. And I keep meaning to do backdrops, but I keep getting on a little bit too late to do it. Can you tell us a little bit about the winery, Travis? They've been around for a very long time, correct?
Well, yes, really long time. Was it, I think, 13 generations or so?
Yeah, late 1800s.
I don't recall that
No,
number at the moment.
I remember reading it. Mm-hmm. And
they were kind of off the beaten path, though, until they were purchased part of a bigger company in the late 1990s, and then kind of were able to, with that influx of some money and distribution, were able to make a little bigger imprint. But this was actually one that we had used a while ago at a wine bar event. And you know, when doing this tasting, Spain immediately came to mind, along with a Riesling too. Those are two things I wanted specifically to zero in on. Because so often Spanish wineries will hold on to their wines for a significant amount of time, like the Lopez de Heredia and some of the others. And I thought that'd be a good place to find good value in something that already has age on it. And it's a Gran Reserva, no less, for under $30. So I opened up a bottle and reached out to the distributor and see if they could get us some more, and got lucky on that one. So
the
I
new
think
company,
in general, if you're looking for an aged wine, Spain's a good place to go.
Oh, absolutely. And Portugal too, though it's a little more obscure and hard to find. And you know what's really cool about this label? They went from being a tiny producer to having significant acreage when the new company bought them. But they were established in like 1899. And you'll notice this word here, Haro, is the township, a major township in the Rioja Alta. So I think that's really cool. These are some large neutral barrels. And they're a well-heeled winery. They've got plenty of resources. And they make, if you go to their website, lots of different cuvées. Let's talk about it. You go first. What do you perceive in the wine?
Well, when I first pour it, I get a little bit of the earthiness, and I got some coconut from the oak. But then as it opens up more, I start getting more of the fruit, start getting a little bit of the secondary qualities that we were talking about earlier, like dried tobacco or some cedar. You know, some of the oak aging starts to show a little bit more in those secondary qualities. But it's still, as you can see from the color, it's still relatively young and fresh for being 10 years old.
You'll notice that our friend Paula Hartson, who's a friend and a colleague and a certified sommelier and going through more certifications as we speak, has confirmed that it is, because this does change and we check with regularity. It's 2 years oak, and these are minimums, 2 years in bottle before release. Remember how we looked at the other wine? Do me a favor, if you still have a white surface, this one, if you look at it, it's surprising because it's almost opaque in the center, like a dark ruby. But follow the color right to the rim, and all of a sudden, not only does it lighten, but there's a little bit of yellow in it. So again, the appearance is not a good or bad thing, unless it's brown. or cloudy. It's an indication of age quite often, and of concentration and extract. So if you just turn the glass a little bit, you'll see that the wine clings to the glass a little, it stains it. And to Travis's point, I love the smell on this Rioja. It's making me pay attention. So it's a little bit soft and muted, but very integrated. The oak is just buried in there. They use a combination of French and American, or dominantly American oak, and conventional wisdom has it that American oak will smell like dill or coconut. I don't know, never get dill, but I always get coconut. And this is just gentle. And then right behind it is this pretty raspberry fruit, a little bit of cherry, some dark fruit too. And it smells perfectly ripe. Maybe a little bit of dried too, and a little bit of cedar, cigar box, like you were saying. The reality is, if you're going to get a Gran Reserva, we did the math, remember, with the minimum aging, they're by definition going to have vinous or secondary qualities to them. You know, if you want something fresh and snappy, you're going to go to something that is a Crianza, C-R-I-A-N-Z-A. On the palate, the tannins are a little more, I think, than the Copertino, but still equal to the acidity. Paula, maybe you'll agree with me, I don't know, but I find this acid tannin balance is quite like Sangiovese. You know, those of you who taste Chianti with any regularity, except there's more
Yes.
oak. Yes.
Yes. So what I always found with Rioja is that it comes off like Sangiovese, but from America, because most of the ones I've had, there's a good use of American oak. So like Travis said, there's that coconut. Sometimes it comes off as dill pickle, a lot of vanilla. So it's a little confusing if you're blind tasting, or it could be a little confusing, but there's always that beautiful, like juicy acidity on the finish of Tempranillo that is really enjoyable. Well
said. And this one, no, absolutely. That's why I called on you. You're also going to get, I think, a little bit of truffle mushrooms sometimes, and as wines get older, which I think is attractive. Another thing will happen that can be annoying or seductive, depending on your viewpoint. We call it the great old wine smell, meaning that maybe it started its life and you would bet big bucks that it was Bordeaux, but 20 years later you smell it and you go, and it looks lighter because it's dropping off color, and you're going, I don't know, maybe it's Brunello, you know. It loses sometimes its regionality or varietal typicity. My friend Tim Gazer, who is a master sommelier, who's coming out with a book on blind tasting and has an absolutely wonderful blog. No money, just go online, go Tim Gazer, G-A-I-S-E-R, and read his essays on tasting. I asked him yesterday, actually, if he had a blog on how wines age, and God love my friend, he sent it to me. And I want to read something because he says it so nicely. He gets asked the question a lot, does old wine taste better than young wine? And his response is, the answer depends completely on you. If you're familiar with the character of an aged wine, then odds are you'll like the subtlety and complex notes. If not, you might be put off by the dried and earthy, and as we've seen, animal characteristics that will emerge in older wines. And another question, are aged wines better than unaged wines? And his response is, context is very important. It's the difference between a great wine experience versus a great wine, meaning if it's up to you, and if you're drinking, you know, Beaujolais Nouveau on a beach at sunset with your sweetheart and you just got engaged, that's the best wine in the universe to you, right? If you're moody and your heart is broken and you just decanted a bottle of 66 Chateau Palmer, you might go, yeah, whatever, you know. But maybe the alcohol will cheer you up a bit. Anybody want to comment on the wine? Oh, thank you, Marshall. God love you. See, I have all these very useful friends. Marshall Ware actually provides us with a spectacular email with regularity because he's a voracious reader, and he tromps through all sorts of wine information and then gives us links to the best stuff. And there's Tim Gazer's blog. Anybody want to talk about the Rioja? Somebody must be drinking it besides us. No?
Well, not specifically about the Rioja, but in relation to what you were just saying, well, as a server, bartender, or as someone working in a retail shop, you get the question often, you know, oh, what's your favorite wine, or what are your top 3 or something like that. And for me, or most people, I feel like it's always an emotional connection to that wine, to that experience that you had. It's really hard to say this one was the best wine because it's so quantitative, you know?
You know, there's another aspect too, and it's funny because Tim let me read a blog he's going to publish soon about quality. And I have strong impressions about, oh, by the way, T, God love you that you did the whole flight earlier. Good for you. You like them all. I love it. We were talking about quality, and it wasn't that I disagreed, but I read his piece and I had a PS to it. I said, Tim, all of us have a recognition of quality that's non-intellectual. You know, when you meet a person and you go, wow, you know, your brain's not moving. You're not sitting there reading their bio or looking at their shoes or their jewelry. You're just talking to them and you're thinking, this person is a fine human being, right? Don't you have that impression when you listen to a great piece of music, even if you don't know anything about the genre, or the first page? Paula, you're a voracious reader too, of a book where you know you're in for a great treat. I think that you get that when you know it's a great wine. I get chills even talking about it. And I said, Tim, I don't know how you quantify that, but especially when you've had tasting experience, you can recognize quality in wine. You can recognize, you may not even like the wine, but you can recognize quality in it. Let's say you don't like mid-century modern, right? Architecture, but you're looking at, you know, who's the famous architect? I just went brain dead. You know who I'm talking about? Somebody unmute.
Frank Lloyd Wright.
Frank Lloyd Wright. You know, you're looking at the stuff going, I know, it's great, it's wonderful. You know, I want a New England cottage, right? But
Want a comfortable couch.
Yes, but you reckon, yes, I don't want to sit on wood, right? But I love mid-century modern. I could just move into any of his places. But I think, especially with this Rioja, I'm getting that recognition from the nose, especially because it's integrated. I have a hard time pulling the components apart. They've sort of melted together, and I think that's another thing that happens when a wine has bottle age. Now we'll tell you we're going to move on to the white, but note to self. I'm not saying you can't go back to your reds, but I wouldn't do them without eating a little something or drinking some water or both, because the perception of sweetness on the white. Hi, Carrie, I just saw you. Nice to see you. The perception of sweetness on the white will make the reds taste, wait for it, drier, even bitter. So even though if it's a dry white, you can go back and forth, or a champagne, if it's got some residual sugar to it, I think you're better served ignoring your reds for a little while. So why don't you go ahead and play with it, and I'll show you some of these pictures because they're really cool. Where are we? We are in the Rheingau. Oh, I keep going back to my
Rhine River.
The Rhine River from the okay, here we go. And why is it not there? Here we go. Let me go down. So, oh, I actually had to take a picture of the bottle because I couldn't find the bottle shot. These pesky Germans make a lot of different cuvées every year. So look at this. Rudesheim is the town. Bischofsberg is the vineyard. And it's actually at the top label, which is gold and indicates higher quality, is a Grosselage, Grosselage, which is higher level single vineyard. Rheingau is the region, Riesling is the grape. Prädikatswein Spätlese means that it's that's the classification of the degree of sugar at harvest. So on the front, these cunning, smart people have chosen just to put the name of the vineyard because it's, you know how the French, it's just Chambertin. There's no Gevrey Chambertin, it's just Chambertin, it's just Le Montrachet. So there's the vineyard, there's the region, and there's the grape variety, and there's the producer. And here we are right here. And here we are, where I'm in Rudesheim, right,
Yep,
Travis?
Yep, right there.
Before the turn. And this is a dead cool picture that Travis found. Wow. There's Bischofsberg, right? That's the vineyard right there. So these
I just think it'd be so cool to look across that river and be like, that one spot right there, that's where this wine's coming from.
Yeah, isn't that cool? And just in case you think, you know, they've got their little tractors, that's the slope. And that is, yes, indeed, slate, which is very slippery. And these are guys working at, well, they're walking on the grass, they're cheating, right? Look at the slope. And here's another killer view. And this is not uncommon. This is an extreme slope. So there's no mechanization here, you know. This is how labor intensive viticulture on the slopes in Germany is. And these are the three gentlemen that make this wine. This is the winemaker. This young looking man, I triple checked it, is the managing director. Indeed, he runs the estate. He came on recently for some reason. And this is the guy that grows the grapes. And this is their beautiful ancestral home, which I don't know if they use as a tasting room or not. So that said, have you played with this? Who's got it? Anybody besides us? Oh, at least two people, yay.
We do.
Paula, you want to describe what you got in your glass? Go for it. So it's not just our voice.
So the first thing, you know, you talked about color with the reds, and whites tend to get darker with age, whereas the reds tend to get lighter with age. And even in my bright orange kitchen, I could see that this is just a deep gold, beautiful color. Just a little bit of that petrol minerality on the front, just enough to let you know what's in the glass. And then it's just this overwhelming, beautiful bouquet of honey and peaches and nectarines and like apricot marmalade, like a jammy. And there's some lemon zest in there. So you get a sense of, like, you can't tell if it's sweet or not. It smells kind of sweet, but it also smells like it could be dry. And then when you take that first sip and let it roll around in your mouth, one of the things I love about Riesling is the texture. It's this beautiful, unctuous, glossy, kind of rich texture that like hangs around forever. And all that sweetness, all those beautiful fruit, perfume, honeysuckle, raw honey, it's all there. Roasted peach. And then for me, vignosity and white wine comes across as roasted nuts. And there's definitely like a roasted almond or like a hazelnut, the skins, that's there. And I like that because it's another level of
And it's a kiss of
complexity.
oxidation, you know, as the wine ages. But this wine still smells fresh. Thank you. That was positively poetic.
And it's crazy long.
It's crazy long, and also, I mean, really nice, fine, Travis. Whoa, I'll tell you. The mouthfeel is what's shocking me. Two things. If you've got it and you sip on it, and hopefully you'll be inspired to buy some after this, because we're not kidding. The finish is uplifting. The acidity finishes. The sweetness doesn't finish. It's actually crisp and mouth-watering. And
that's lip smacking. After you drink it, you want to come back and have more.
Yeah. Oh, and it's 9.5 alcohol, so it's dangerous. You know, it's like really strong beer, right? But it's also almost got a saltiness to it. The minerality is so pronounced. And I'm going to read something Tim wrote. Wines with age show more pronounced mineral character because of the decreased, sometimes intensity of fruit and non-fruit elements, though that's not the case here. This is regards to sweetness in older wines, especially Riesling, because I always wondered, why did they taste drier than the same wine did 10 years ago? You know, the residual sugar, if you measure it, if you quantify it, is the same. However, the level of measurable residual sugar doesn't change, but over time, certain molecules and aldehydes form new combinations that can change our perception of sweetness. So it's an illusion, making an older wine taste drier. In white wine, the residual sugar, the level of acidity can seem higher after considerable aging. Why? Because the perception of sweetness is less. So isn't that cool? It seems a little bit more tart. It doesn't seem like a dessert wine unless it's mid-palate. Paula, you're a chef. What food would you put with this? Is this foie gras?
My knee-jerk reaction is I want that salty blue cheese dip that Elaine has made. There's something about Riesling, aged Riesling, these peachy apricot notes that go so well with that salty blue veined cheese. There's, you know, that mildly funky. You don't want to put like something crazy with it, but that is absolutely something that I would pair with it. I would do a fruit tart, and then remembering if you are going to pair something that has any kind of RS in it, the wine should always be sweeter than the food. Otherwise, they both like kind of make each other taste flat and weird.
And that's the real punchline of doing dessert with dessert wine. But I tell you, I would do this also with like Indian food or Chinese food.
Pork.
That's got a little bit of sweetness to it.
Pork with a fruit sauce.
With a fruit sauce, because it's actually going to make even the wine taste a little bit drier. I love this. We've got a comment saying for bakers that oxidation character comes across as almond extract down the nose. Now, some of you in older Rieslings may have smelled petrol. Travis, do you get it in this? I don't get it, but I want to tell people what it is.
I get a waxiness, but I don't get the gasoline kind of quality.
It's occasional on Riesling. And actually, I think even more in Alsace than Germany, but in older German Riesling, sometimes you pick up this like a kerosene smell or gasoline smell.
Or matchsticks.
Yeah, and it's called TDN, which is, there's like a, you know, a yard-long name that I'm not going to, we didn't even write it down, but it's a flavor compound that emerges depending on the microclimate, especially in warmer growing regions, which Alsace is compared to most pockets of Germany. It emerges when there's low pH, which means higher acidity. Certain yeast strains can impact it, but here's the takeaway. If it's in the wine, it can get more apparent with bottle age. So I'm sure that those of you who, you know, have Riesling with any regularity, it's not uncommon to smell this gasoline-y thing, and it's sort of right next to this beautiful peach apricot, you know, honeysuckle floral character. They're like right next to each other. So if you pick it up, there's nothing wrong with it. To our good luck, this wine doesn't have it. Anybody else want to comment? Oh, here we go. Would work beautifully with mango chutney. Love it. Indian comment. Or carrot halva. Fantastic. Mango chutney, you know, any kind of Indian chutney. I'm you know, career vegetarian, so Hindu cuisine is my idea of a good time. This producer.
I think Gruyere would be be a good pairing.
Gruyere.
Yeah, something like a firmer cheese, a little saltiness. I feel like would go well.
Mm. And Gruyere makes what? Great, who's it? You know, dipping. Mm.
Madeline, this is a wonderful mouthfeel.
Oh, so it's, does it feel creamy or tart to you, or both?
Creamy. It's really amazing how much body it's got to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having it with some blue cheese, and it's lovely, the combination.
Oh, fantastic. I love it. See, you're all proving it. Elaine, see what you started with the blue cheese? This producer, by the way, is in a pocket of the Rheingau. This is very cool. The other thing that they plant, they have two grape varieties, Riesling and Pinot Noir. They're in a commune called, I'm going to slaughter it, Assmannhausen. I think I said it right. that is the most famous township in Germany for Pinot. I have to tell you a little secret, that when I'm part of the examination panel that has to read exams out loud, when we hit the German page, I have to hand it to one of my colleagues because I'm gonna slaughter it. You know, I'm your girl when it comes to Spain or Greece or France, you know, but I can't do German. They're a sizable estate, and all of their production is actually Erste Lage and Grosslage, which means they only have a single vineyard sites, so they don't make any generic nothing. This is a truly wonderful value. Gold capsule, single vineyard with bottle age that tastes like it can handle another 10 years, you know. What's our price on this, Travis?
$20.97.
I'm a very bad retailer. I always forget the price, but admittedly a half bottle, but I think the frontline price on this was double that, wasn't it?
It was 45.
Yeah.
Or 40.
And what are you paying for? You're paying for bottle age, you're paying for the quality of the producer, and you're paying for the fact that it's a single vineyard and, you know, really high
Not done with
quality.
the tractor.
What's that?
And not done with the tractor.
I'm drinking it. I don't care. You know, I'm not driving anywhere. It's just so yummy. Anyone want to comment on it? Anyone else have it or has had wines like this that wants to chime in? I will tell you that occasionally wines like this will be trocken. So if you see the term, and God love Germany, you know, they keep reinventing themselves with their classifications and legalities. There is an organization of very high quality producers called VDP that has come up with this term, Gros Esquebecs, that is Grand Cru. And the wines are made dry, and you'll see the term GG on the label. So you can see it might be Spätlese or even Auslese, but it's not sweet. That's what the reason I'm mentioning it to you. These are really cool wines. And if you took this wine and fermented it dry, right, you'd have like truly an illusion of sweetness, but all that depth and complexity. They're a little weird if you've never had them before, but the best kind of weird, you know, until you get used to them. And I really suggest you look for them. So GG, Trocken Spätlese is really something neat.
I feel like I have that experience with dry Gewürztraminers because it smells of the honeysuckle and everything. You think it's going to be sweet, and it has the weight and everything, and then you taste it, and oh, that was just a dry example.
Travis, did you see the question? Can we get this in a bigger bottle, or did they only have half bottles?
Not this particular one, no. But
You're just going to have to get 2 half bottles, I'm afraid.
Yep, sorry.
So actually, in terms of, Paula, did you have a comment? You have your finger up.
I do, since we're talking about bottle aging. Half bottles, from what I've been told, I don't have enough experience, but they show their age a lot faster than a full bottle. So I almost feel like we're getting an even better deal with these half bottles.
Also, to your point, the half bottle serves another purpose. When you open the bottle, you have, well, depending on obviously how much of it you drink, you're going to have less space, you know, which means less air. And again, don't forget to use your private preserve. If you haven't gotten hip to this stuff yet, it still stuns me. If you use it properly, it works so well, so well. So you can drink it over, you know, a period of days, even weeks. Any other comments or questions about bottle age? Good, bad, and different, our opinions, anything? Let's talk about a category very briefly before I talk about next week. Red Bordeaux, that, you know, we always assume it needs extensive bottle age, but modern winemaking is a really cool thing because the Bordelais are now making their Cabernet and Merlot-based blends that used to be rather mean in their youth in a fashion that they drink well young. They have tricks that don't impact the quality of the wine long term, but simply make it friendlier when it's young. One of those tricks is to ferment either partially or wholly in oak, as opposed to, I think it's Robin, can you mute? Or Robin or Elaine, can you mute? Thank you. To ferment or finish fermenting in the small barrels, 225 liters. And that tends to make the wine a little bit approachable when it's younger. So, you know, if you're buying 15s and 16s, they taste terrific now, but they will develop more vinosity with bottle age. Mike, you want to speak up about anything to do with older wines, how to handle them, or how you feel about them?
I think it's kind of polarizing. Most of the people, either you like them or you don't, and it's fine not to like them. It's really difficult to taste a lot of them. Carrie and I have been lucky enough to get in as part of a tasting group that this is all we do is taste older wines. And by older wines, I mean 20, 30, 40 years old. Some of them are really interesting. Some of them are completely oxidized and all those things. So if you don't like kind of the flavors that came out tonight, then you're probably not going to like much older wine than this. If you do, what I found is it's kind of challenging to find the older wines, but it is something that you either like or you don't. They can be really interesting, and because historically, if they're older, there's history to them. But you know, if you enjoy it, continue to explore it as best you can. It's tough to get them in the market. You kind of have to know somebody, I guess.
Like you.
Like me.
Or Travis, right?
You know, much more expensive, but we were lucky enough to get 96 Barolo in straight from Fontana Freda at the end of last year. They're about 75 a bottle, but that would be, if you're really looking to look into it, I think some of the stores still have some of those bottles left. I tend to like, I guess, tasting and the history of it. We've, as part of the group that we're part of, we've tasted Beaujolais Nouveau from 96, 97, and 98.
Fantastic.
You'd be shocked how well, they're not great, but you'd be shocked how well they've kept up because of their acidity levels. I think wines that are higher in tannin tend to keep longer, and I think wines that are higher in acid tend to keep longer. So that's kind of what you're looking for.
Well, you know, to your point too, it's a matter of personal preference. And also, it isn't like you turn the light off or you turn the light on.
No.
I mean, we both tasted a Beaujolais that we were considering to use at a natural wine tasting in a couple of weeks. And I just thought it had lost its freshness. It hadn't turned bad. It just wasn't a good example of what I wanted it to be. It was sort of sliding, you know. But also what Mike's talking about, the provenance, where the older wine has been, is critical. So buying it from a merchant you can trust is really essential. I'm going to bring up, look at this picture. Isn't she lovely? This is Anne Trimbach, who is part of the truly iconic Trimbach family. And we're having this taste. Oh, look at this. This is the old one. It's this Thursday, March 19th. Oh my God, mini story. This was going to be a sit down tasting at Ann Arbor North Campus. And I was flying back from Portland and I landed and I got a call from Mark Jonah who said, COVID, we're canceling everything in person, start doing it all, you know, virtual, just get online and do it. So she is coming online with us next Friday. So ignore this date. I'll send you the right flyer. It'll be Friday. And the reason we do Fridays when we have a European guest is because I make them stay up as late as they're willing to. She wasn't willing to go past 3 p.m. her time. So that is what? 9 p.m. Her time. So that's 3 p.m. our time. So it's going to be 3 p.m. on Friday. If you start early, you can get off work early. We're going to taste what? Gewürztraminer, Riesling, both the regular and the Cuvée Friedrich Emile. And some of it's actually being flown in to supplement our stock because we were running low. And Travis, what's the other one? A Pinot Gris and the Pinot Gris Reserve, right. But she's very eloquent. She's the daughter of the winemaker, Pierre. And it's going to be next Friday, I should really say in all honesty, afternoon. And I can't believe I have that original March 19th flyer where she was going to come to Ann Arbor North Campus and taste all these wines in person. Fritz, I just saw you lounging there. I don't know if Kareem is with you, but your beautiful, beautiful home. It's very nice to see you. I enjoyed your company in these wines tremendously. If you go back, my glass is almost done on the Riesling, but if you go back and smell the other two reds, it's very interesting because they change. That leathery smell in the Copertino has abated, and the Rioja smells even better. I'm getting almost like a chocolate or dark chocolate or coffee smell to it. That's a combination.
Yeah, I had that one on day 2. When I opened it earlier in the week, I had it on day 2 and I liked it even more.
Travis, you want to be the caboose on this? Is there anything you've been wanting to say that you didn't share?
Well, I guess one thing when we're talking about aging wines, if anyone is going to take this upon themselves, storage conditions is something to bring up. Keeping it somewhere that's consistent with temperature, like a basement is always nice because, ideally you want to be around 55 degrees. And the basement, at least my basement here, always stays pretty consistent. And you want to avoid sunlight, keep the bottle on its side so you have the wine contacting the cork so it doesn't dry out. Those are some of the chief concerns. Let's see, what else?
It doesn't, you don't have to have an expensive a cooling system. I have in a corner of my basement like a window fan that keeps it just under 65 and it's really noisy. That's cool enough. I'm not going to keep the stuff for another 30 years, right? I just want to keep it healthy.
And no dehumidifiers next to it.
Yeah, that would be bad. But I think, the kitchen is not a good place, right? And,
next to a heating duct or something.
Is not a good place, right? But, sometimes
not on top of your fridge.
Not on top of your fridge. We're saying this to restaurant people too, because all of us have been in situations where we order a bottle of red and ask for an ice bucket because it's been stored in a warm area. You know what? And if you love a wine and you're curious how it's going to age, frankly, if it's a good buy multiple bottles and open a bottle every year or two and hit, when you hit it and you're going, my God, is this good? It might be, for me, it's right when it's starting to pick up the acidity, but it still has plenty of fruit. They start to annoy me personally when they start getting really old because I find them slightly dried out, but then I'll have a collector friend that thinks, especially the British, they're just starting to, to show their worth. But you can determine for yourself what level of age you like. Travis, thank you for this subject and for these 3 wines.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.
They really, really, demonstrated the subject beautifully. Paula, thank you for being expressive. Mike, and everyone. Elaine, thank you for letting me call on you and for bringing up blue cheese.
I have a question, Madeline.
Yes.
I need to go back to the decanter.
Yep.
When Travis was talking about the sediments, when it goes down to the bottom, what are we supposed to do? Do we pour it into another container or how does that work?
You know what you can do? You can do one of 2 things. You can pitch it. Well, I would put it in a separate glass and taste it because it might taste okay, but you want that pretty clear wine, in your glass. Also, if it's a little bitter, save it for cooking. It's not uncommon. If I was doing a big event with a notable chef, I'd be in the back decanting a bunch of stuff and I'd tromp into the kitchen with the equivalent of a bottle of wine going, hi chef, you need to deglaze. Here's some really expensive sediment. You know?
Oh, okay. So if you see settlement, you throw it out. I mean, you don't drink it.
You can taste it. It might be okay. It's not necessarily bad. Just try it. It might taste fine.
If it's a wine that I really like and I'm trying to milk every last ounce out of it, I will pour that last bit into a glass and I'll spin the glass slowly as I'm drinking it.
Or just, use it for cooking. Put it in the fridge and use it for cooking. Or pitch it.
I normally, I'm not familiar with Rieslings, and when I picked up my wines, originally I tried to get them, I was in West Bloomfield and they didn't have the red, so I always go to Ann Arbor. Anyway, when I went to Ann Arbor today, when I was picking them up, they told me that the Riesling was a little sweet, and I said, I don't like sweet, but I went on and got it. I'm surprised. I love this.
Isn't it good? I know. Marshall chimed in, by the way, don't store them in the fridge. The vibration is not good over time. And the Italians fight over who gets the last dribs. Thank you for that.
Elaine, there's more of the Riesling in the store if you want to stop by and see me.
By the way, everyone who
yeah,
doesn't know, Mike's the wine team leader at Ann Arbor West.
Yeah, I normally, the one in closest to campus is closer to my home, but I do like you, Mike. I really do. So, but normally, if I'm short on time, I go to the one closer to my home. But I'll come and see you soon.
Jorge appreciates that.
All the stores should have plenty of that one.
And but remember, if you want more of number one, or you didn't get any and you want some, look at my follow-up email, which I have my act together. I'd send it tonight, but I'll net money. It's going to be tomorrow morning. And just tell me that you're interested in it, and or just look for it. You can ask Mike or look for it at West Bloomfield in about a week's time, right, Travis?
Well, I'll know tomorrow where it's at exactly.
Okay. We don't know where it is.
Yeah, they're going to track the containers and all that sort of thing.
Okie doke.
I think for a Spätlese, which I usually expect to be sweet, this was really very pleasant.
Oh, that makes my day. Thanks for saying that. And that's the bottle age. It's the bottle age.
By the way, Madeline, if you can see us, we're in a sukkah.
Yes.
Which is?
A temporary structure commemorating the exodus of the Jews from Egypt.
Oh my, you are. And is this located in your home?
On a deck. It's not supposed to be under a roof. You're supposed to be able to see the sky through the roof.
And you can. Wonderful. And it's appropriate to be sipping good wine?
Perfect.
Oh, yes. In fact, it's very important.
We just got a little space heater, and so it's warm and lovely. Okay.
Oh, wonderful. Well, you're getting, we have our perfect Michigan weather again. And what is it called? A sukkah?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's actually, if you can't read the Hebrew, but there's an invitation to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Moses, Aaron, and David.
Whoa, that's some company. So maybe they're there in spirit, who knows?
They didn't show up, but we had enough wine for them.
They might be there just peeking in. You just can't see them.
You can't tell.
Right. Well, listen, everyone, thank you. Big hug to you. Isigian, to your health in Greek. And what do we say again in Afrikaans? I always forget.
Tot ziens. Tot ziens. So we see each other again.
Wonderful.
It's like the German Auf Wiedersehen.
And I always like the Italian chin chin.
Chin chin, yes.
Prost.
Or as the Greeks say, chin chin.
Ciao.
Enjoy the weekend, everyone. Thanks for your company, and I hope I'll see you next week for Trimbach. There are 4 wines. Pick up, one or all 4. If you buy one, the Frederica meal is just killer. Older Riesling, which you experienced tonight. It's 2011. It is a special cuvee. It ain't cheap.
And we got a special price.
And we got a very special price. We lowered it by like $20.
Is it a dry Riesling?
It's drier than this. It's a dry Riesling,
Okay.
yes.
Robin is against sweet wines on principle.
It is bone dry, Robin. Bone
Thank
dry.
you.
In the same way as I'm against pink wine.
Well. And we won't call it a character flaw. That's okay. Travis, thanks a lot. You made this happen.
Thank you,
you.
Travis. Good
Right,
idea.
thank you.
Good night,
everybody.
everybody.
Night.
Bye.